you are exactly like the 5 people you hang out with the most. If the 5 people you hang out with the most are negative or not working on themselves or not being the best versions of themselves, you are also going to be just like that. Surrounding yourself with people who are growing, learning, striving to be better, striving to do more is going to give you a more of a leg up than any other thing you could be doing.
Today on the We Share podcast, we're joined by certified trauma recovery coach and mental health professional and survivor, Ciera Belnap. Welcome to the We Share podcast. I'm Julie.
I'm Alex.
We share ourselves and we provide a platform for others to share.
We believe everyone has a purpose and a story to tell.
And we're back on the We Share podcast. I'm Julie.
And I'm Alex.
And today we're going to go on an emotional healing journey with Ciera Belnap. She's our guest in studio today. Ciera has her bachelor's degree in marriage and family studies. She then went on to become a certified trauma recovery coach, but she's done even more work than that. She is now trained in internal family systems therapy that has some dealings with narcissistic abuse. And she has received her education to become a trauma care practitioner. And you're just on the heels of completing another certification. So welcome, Ciera. We're excited to learn about all of that and tell us what your new certification is.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. My new certification is a health and wellness practitioner. So as I have worked through the various stages of being a trauma recovery coach and seeing how women progress through their healing, because I primarily work with women, it has become very apparent that it trickles into every aspect of your life, the physical, the emotional, the mental, all of it. And so I decided this last year, or I guess earlier this year, to take a more holistic approach in how I go about healing with my clients. And that just felt right to do the health and wellness practitioner part of that. And so now I can kind of tackle all angles.
I feel like that's just so important, to integrate, because it really does. All of it comes together. Where were you 10 years ago when I needed you? She's like, I was just 20.
I was drowning in my own stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So I know you're in this position of helping others because you've had a pretty traumatic experience and some growth on your own, which I think is so valuable when you're asking to have someone coach you through your own trauma. So can you share that traumatic experience as much as you feel comfortable? Can you share that experience with us?
Absolutely. So I had stuff start in childhood, which I didn't realize until I became an adult and started working through things. And I was like, where is this coming from? And as I started to work through it, I realized it was things from my childhood. And not that I had a horrible childhood. My parents are great. I'm super close with both of them. And they are wonderful people. But they got divorced when I was, started when I was 8, finalized when I was 9. So that was really hard. It was very rocky, very rough, horrible, nasty divorce. And so I have a lot of intense memories of the fights and things. So not really knowing how to cope with that. And then, oddly enough, that was right around the time that the Twin Towers fell, 9/11. And so I just was kind of bombarded with all of this at one time, and my little 3rd grade self could not process all of that. So I just kind of stuffed it down and dealt with it as best as I could as a little 3rd grader, because I never felt like I could go home to my parents and say, hey, I'm feeling this, or I'm having a hard time here, because I knew they were already wrapped up in so much of their own emotional turmoil that I just didn't have a safe place to go home and express those things.
Feeling like the book that's coming up for me is The Sky is Falling, I haven't read that the penny, the chicken or whatever.
Chicken Little.
Chicken Little, yeah. The Sky is Falling. At that age, that's what you would feel like. Mm-hmm. And my daughter was around that age when we went through an ugly divorce. And I know I can't wait to hear how this evolves for you, because she did what you did unbeknownst to me, right? Because we're all just in survival mode when you're going through that.
So my dad also was a heavy drinker when I was little, and that was really difficult. So there was a lot of nights that he wouldn't come home, or he'd come home super late, and you don't really realize how much that affects you when you don't have your dad present all of that time. But I internalized that, things were prioritized over me. And I didn't realize that that's how I internalized it until later. And like I said, he's doing so much better now. The divorce was probably the best thing that could have happened for my parents because they've both remarried, and the people they've married are fantastic, and they've gained 6 siblings, 3 on each side. And so it worked out for the best, and they became better people because of it. So, but that was where everything kind of rooted and started. And then when I was 16, I got in your typical high school relationship. So I thought, but he was a member of the church, the LDS church that's prominent here, and I was not, and I never grew up that way. And I didn't realize I had this complex of just wanting to be loved, which was rooted in me wanting to feel important and feel prioritized. And so as we went through this relationship, it became clear that he didn't want to prioritize me if I wasn't a member of the church. And so we were on again, off again for 2 years till I was, 18 and a half. So we dated pretty much junior and senior year. And the longer we dated, the worse things got. And I did get baptized into the church at 17. And I had convinced myself at that time that I was doing it for me and this was the best choice and it was going to be great. But now that I'm 32 and I'm no longer a member of the church and have worked through my stuff, I have realized that I was just trying to feel accepted and feel part of something. And I was willing to sacrifice everything because I had voices in my head that were like, you don't really believe this. You don't really believe this. And I was like, no, this is the way. But it became a way for him to control me. And he started belittling me and telling me that I wasn't doing good enough. He eventually convinced me that because my family weren't members of the church, that they were horrible people and I needed to stay away from them. So for a time, I actually sacrificed any relationships with my family. And when you hear these things day in and day out, you start to believe them. And so every day I was told that my family was horrible people and given examples why. And every day he would tell me how dumb I was or how stupid I was and point out all the reasons why. And so when I hear it over and over again, and I'm just trying to be accepted and be loved by someone, I'm constantly was trying to change myself to be better. It was never good enough. Nothing I ever did was good enough, but it just evolved into this very manipulative and controlling situation. And I hated myself because I had given up every single part of me that made me who I was to try to be loved by someone else. And I lost everything that made me me in the process. And I also, for a time, had lost my family because I had pushed them so far away.
This is like textbook stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So you lost your identity. You created a new identity for like love and acceptance from him.
And still was not loved.
I've heard this scenario. I've even, experienced part of that. What's makes me sad for you, but happy where you're at now, is that you went through this at 17, 18. I heard this more with like marriage later, that narcissistic abuse cycle where they isolate you, they beat you down, and then you do get on the hamster wheel of the negative self-talk, just roller coaster ride of your life. Like, it's not fun.
But I bet there's some gratitude that you did it so young because you didn't have to go through marriage and possibly have a kid and have to dissolve all of that.
Yes. And it almost came to that. So it's kind of crazy how it all worked out. He left on his mission and I was like, I am waiting for him and we're going to get married. And I had this delusional life planned out that, which there was this part of me that was like, nobody else is going to love me, which that was something I was told, I'm the best you're ever going to find is what he would tell me. And so, and I believed it. Why wouldn't I? And so, but once he left on his mission and I was actually away from him, couldn't talk to him because this was back when all you could do was write letters. And so I couldn't talk to him. And it was then that I kind of had this realization of like, oh my gosh, what have I been doing for the last 2.5 years.
You probably did you have a good girlfriend step in or something, or like?
I pushed them away too, sadly.
Okay.
Yep. And I since have gone back and reconnected with them and apologized. And I was like, I was
Good
Was
friends.
there-
yeah.
Yeah,
there
good friends
one-
understand, though.
Yeah.
Was there one defining moment or aha moment where you're like, it just became clear
So
what you needed to
when
do?
you were talking about the cycle, typically the cycle is, and it was different for me because the cycle of how it usually goes is women will enter into another relationship that mirrors that same one, and they just get trapped in this for years and years and years. And I don't know. I mean, I definitely believe in a higher power, and I feel like there was a divine intervention then because I met my husband about 3 weeks before my ex went on his mission, and we were coworkers, and it was just kind of like, oh, he's kind of cute. Like, and once my ex left on his mission, we actually started talking more, me and my husband, and we clicked immediately. And I don't know. And since I was still a member of the church, I still was very much of the mindset that like this was what I needed to do. This was the right thing. And I feel like I did need to be a member of the church at that time because my husband was a member as well. And he wouldn't have dated me otherwise. And so
He was looking for that
yes,
connection.
So it worked out. It put us exactly where we needed to be. But we met, and once I started spending more time with him and the way he treated me and the way he showed up, I was like, this is like nothing I have ever, like this is completely opposite. And so it just, like I said, we clicked immediately. And let's see, we met the beginning of May in 2012, and our first date was in August, and we were married January of 2013. So
Yeah. So you still kept up with the Mormon speed of
yeah,
dating,
yes,
marriage,
Yeah.
right? All
Yes.
within 6 months. So that's
yes,
code.
yes. And I don't love that. I didn't love it then, but it was just
It is what it is.
Yeah,
I did
it is what
too.
it is,
Yeah,
and-
I did it twice.
How long did it take you to unpack all of that? Because I bet when you married, you still hadn't unpacked it.
I didn't even know it was there. So it didn't start to come out until we were very first married. And he would want to go on a fishing trip with his friends. Totally normal. But my trauma brain would freak out. And it was like, he's going to go.
Abandon you,
And
yeah.
exactly, he's going to go. And he's going to realize that you're crazy or that he doesn't actually love you and he doesn't want to be around you. And so you just can't let him go. And so there were times that I was like, no, you can't go. And he was like, what? Like this, I'm telling you, this man is a saint for sticking with me as I went from this delusional person who's having all of these weird things happen to unpacking it. And I mean, he's just grown and supported and loved me through the whole thing.
There's good
So
guys
That's
out
so
there.
awesome.
Yeah, there's good
Yeah,
guys out there.
he is a gem. He is one in a million for sure.
So you took your pain and you turned it into your purpose, and then
Absolutely.
enrolled in school. Where did you go to school to get your?
So I started, I always wanted to be a helper. I originally went into the medical field and I was working as a CNA and I wanted to be an RN. And once I worked as a CNA for about 3.5, 4 years, I was like, I don't know if this is where I want to be, but I know, like, I feel called to
You
help
weren't
people.
loving the bedpans.
No, not necessarily.
I mean,
The diaper
yeah.
changes.
Oh,
And as a
so
like, I
fragrant.
really wanted to be an RN, but I knew the type of RN that I wanted to be. I was going to have to climb that ladder, and I just was like, I just don't want to miss out on birthdays and holidays and weekends with my kids. Like, that does not sound like fun at all. And so I made a switch, and I was going to, it was iTech, CEI in town for the nursing stuff, and I made a switch, and I transferred up to BYUI. And I eventually settled on marriage and family studies with a clinical emphasis because I was like, I am going to go be a marriage and family therapist, and I am going to work with kids who are going through a divorce.
Right. What you went through, because you're most qualified to help the people that you
And
that
so
you understand. Yeah.
Yep. So I got all my undergrad in that, and I graduated when our oldest was 3, almost 3, and I was about 2 weeks away from delivering our second. And so I busted it out, got it done in the normal 4 years, which was wild with little kids. And then after I graduated, I was like, okay, I need a break. I need to just be with my babies because I had a newborn. And as I took that break, my daughter started to show signs of autism and just things that as a new mom, I was like, this is not...
The 3-year-old or the new
3-year-old.
baby? Okay.
Yep. I was like, this is not normal. And everyone kept telling me, don't compare your kids to others. And I'm like, at some point, like, there's things that she's doing that it's not what most other kids are doing. And so we had a long battle of, she got diagnosed with sensory processing disorder and ADHD first. And then the autism diagnosis came later. But she was just a very high needs kiddo. And when she was 5, we had our third baby. So I had 5, 3, and a newborn. And that was when
Our hearts are out to
Yeah,
you. We've done it.
It was a lot.
We're just 20 years ahead of you. That's all.
Yep. And that was right. He was born in November of 2019, so right before COVID.
Oh, wow.
So we just had so much going on at that one time. And I was like, I don't think I could, like, they need so much from me. I don't know that I'm going to ever feel like I can go and get a master's degree and actually be a marriage and family therapist. And I mean, everyone will say, nobody has time.
Right. There is no good time.
There's no good time. But I just was like, with how much I know my kids need me, especially my oldest daughter, I can't spend that much time going to school and being away from them.
You don't get time back. That's the one thing.
Yeah. And so I just kind of put everything on hold. And then I was just telling my husband, I'm feeling really unfulfilled. I'm not my best self when I'm only a stay-at-home mom. I need something for me. And both of my parents were entrepreneurs. Both of my step-parents are entrepreneurs. So I grew up around go-getter moms and people having their own schedule. And like that was normal to me. And so I was like, I need to figure out what I'm going to do. And my husband said, you are very good at sharing your story and you are very good at helping others and just connecting with others. So he's like, just do that. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but okay. And so I hopped on Google and I just started Googling things and I found the International Association of Trauma Recovery Coaching. And I read through it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I need to do. And so in 2022, I started that, and that was a 6-month course, and it was very, very intense, heavy, like it goes through everything trauma. The way that they explained it was, if you're going into a nursing degree, you might have a tiny class on I don't even know, like pediatrics, and then you have a tiny class. Like you kind of get a broad scope of things. And that's a lot of how marriage and family therapy is too. You cover all of it, but then if you want to focus on one area, you need to take additional courses. Mm-hmm. And so I actually have extensive training, more than most marriage and family therapists out of school do, on trauma and its effects on the body and the brain, and like it covered everything. And so that was where I started. Once I certified in that, I got my first client and worked with her for about 14 months. And it was,
I'm sure it was life-changing for her.
It was. And just to watch her, that's my favorite part about working with my clients, is watching them come to me as broken people who are like on their last straw and they're tired of themselves and they are this close to giving up, and this is like their last ditch effort. And then to have them walk out, a year or so later and be completely different people. It's so rewarding.
So you're clearly listening to them. Can you share some of there's tools that you are teaching them to basically rewire their brain, right?
Yes. Yep. So, Julie mentioned one at the beginning was the internal family systems.
Okay.
So it's also known as parts work. So I go in, the idea behind that is that we all have little parts in our brain. You might have one part that wants to have ice cream after dinner and another part that's like, no, like you're on a diet or you're trying to eat clean right now. And so they're just little sub parts of our brains. But when you go through trauma, especially at a young age, these parts can get stuck at 7, 8, 9 years old, however old you were when the trauma happened, and they don't realize that you have grown up and that you're not in that scary environment anymore and that you're safe and you have kids and you're doing good. They don't realize that. And so they will send up these scary, like when my husband want to go fishing, that abandonment part would come up and go, he's going to leave you. When really I could look down and go, I've got a ring on my finger. My husband's not going anywhere. My logical brain can see that.
So you're helping all of these people now through coaching. How do they get a hold of you? How and where should they be in their journey with this? Like, do they need to be paired with a psychologist? Like, what is your typical patient or client, I should probably say, look like?
Sure. So I can work, if you're working with a actual therapist or a psychologist, I can do work alongside with them. I'll just get in contact with them and we'll kind of tag team it. But a lot of women who come to me have either done therapy in the past and it didn't work for them, because a lot of the therapy around here is talk therapy. And they don't want to go back and rehash their story. And I don't believe
it is so true. You don't want to tell your story again.
Yeah.
You're reliving the
Yes.
story and then it brings it back up. And I'm like, oh, I just rather forget about that part.
Yes. So I work with a lot of women who like, when they come to me, they are like, I don't want traditional therapy. I don't want to worry about any of that. And so, and I have modalities where we don't have to dig super deep into it and we can do more superficial stuff, but it's also, it can target that subconscious that's holding on to all of these memories. That's what the parts work does. And yeah, and it's a more gentle approach.
To break down that border you put around those parts so that you can advance.
Yes.
And you can move past it. This is like the perfect kind of therapy, because I would say most people want therapy to grow past where they're at.
Yes.
And this actually fulfills that need.
Yeah. So the first question I'll ask you is, what are you feeling today? What is happening in your life today that is bothering you the most? Are you anxious when you go to the grocery store? Are you yelling at your kids too much? Like, what are you dealing with today that bugs you the most? And we start there and we work backwards.
I think that would be, for me at least, far more healthy, because I'm not very good at being vulnerable. So to sit down across from the therapist and say, okay, tell me what's the worst parts of your life, it's going to be very hard for me to pull the covers off of all of
peel
that.
the onion.
Yes.
I'll be like,
yeah. So this would be super beneficial to address it that way.
Yeah. And that's what I love too with therapy. A lot of times you're dealing with insurance. And so to make sure that insurance will cover your visits, you have to make a certain amount of progress every time. And I don't have to deal with any of that because I don't do the insurance part. But that means we can go at a snail's pace. If that's what you need, we can go super quick. Like, it is 100% tailored to whatever you need, whatever you want to work on. And yeah, I don't have anyone to answer to when it comes to the insurance side of things. So that makes it a lot more flexible.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if, just through your experience in training, education, and everything, are there books or things that you recommend? So share those, because we love sharing good books, good information for people.
So one of my most favorite books is The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. And that one talks about how when you have these traumatic things happen, and there's things that have happened that may seem so minuscule and you don't realize that it's actually qualified as a trauma. A trauma is just anything that takes you out of yourself, that you feel too overwhelmed to deal with, is considered a trauma. But those things become stored in our bodies if we don't fully process them. And then they will show up later in life because you have that negative energy sitting in your body, and it's going to come out one way or the other.
We frequently call that cellular memory here, but and you're not the first guest to recommend that book. It's fantastic.
It's a good one. It's a lot of information. It's a slow read, but it is so good. It is so good.
What's your score? Do you get a numerical score in the end?
I'm a 99.
Yeah.
Yeah. No numerical score, but it's just the, like, your body's always keeping track. And it's gonna.
I know it manifests too. Like if I'm higher stress level, I'm going to see it show up in my skin or
the tension in your shoulders. And
I'm like, oh, I need to breathe. I need to do some things.
Yep.
So.
And it comes out as autoimmune diseases and lots of other dysfunctions the longer it goes on. So
there's some professionals that would bode that you're the one making yourself sick because, like if you just would take care of the traumas or the things in your life, you just let go of stuff, then you're just.
And there's so many people that just they want that chapter to be closed and done with and forget about it. But it's never going to be closed until they can close it and make reconciliation with it themselves. But they're scared to. And
well, it's hard.
Yeah, it absolutely is hard.
It is difficult, but worth it in the end, especially for those babes that you bring into this world, because they deserve to not have the trauma that you experienced.
Yes.
Yep. They don't need to heal because you continued the trauma.
Yes. And that's a lot of women come to me because they don't realize they had a ton of trauma until they had kids. And then they were like, whew, man, I am not showing up as my best self.
That is so true, because you put a lot of pressure on yourself as a mother. Like you're like, I want to do this, this, and this. And then if there was something that wasn't modeled to the best, then you're like, well, I'm never going to do that. I know my mom did that. I'm never going to do that. And then you catch yourself doing it because it's so ingrained in just the way you were raised. And there's something you had mentioned in your story that came up for me was your dad was gone. So you felt like you weren't a priority to him. But I'm sure you also witnessed your mom internalizing a lot of pain and rejection and dealing with these emotional traumas as a wife.
Yeah.
And you can see that more from a wife view now that you're a wife, where they're not there and she's doing it all and having to,
Yeah. And I'm sure I did. I actually don't have a whole lot of memories from the time that I was about 5 to 10. So, and most of them are about my mom. Like I can remember things about my dad and I can remember scary parts, but I don't, for whatever reason, my brain is like, nope, you don't get to have any of these memories. And so every now and then I'll have like a random one come back and I'll call my parents and be like, did we go to the park on this day? And it was kind of by this place. And then they'll walk me kind of through like, oh yeah, we did do that, and help me kind of recall. But yeah, I don't have, I'm sure that what you said about watching my mom, I'm sure that was so traumatic and painful for me as a kid that my brain is just like, you can't.
I know it was for my kids. They've voiced it very recently. So it just happens and you don't realize it because you're just, I thought I had everyone fooled.
Yeah.
Like that I was keeping it together.
Oh no, our kids can sniff it out. Mine no.
I think it's so interesting that you mentioned 9/11 and that even though you were second, third grade, whatever it was, you were so affected by it. We are still not understanding what COVID did to the young kids.
Yes.
It's a different version of 9/11, right?
Absolutely.
The trauma is going to be there, and we acted so arrogantly as adults, like, oh, this is no big deal, blah, 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 they're going to be fine. But no, they were taken out of their element.
Yes.
There were important milestones that weren't celebrated. There were so many things that were abandoned for about 2 years. You've got a whole subset of people to help just through that trauma because we're still in 2025 pretending like it was no big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I've seen the effects of that on my own kids. I had a kindergartner. My oldest was in kindergarten, and to have her ripped from her classroom and wasn't allowed to dance, and even into 2021, because that's when all the mask mandates and all of that were still like we got the tail end of it on that school year in 2020. And so I don't think, there was kids who missed their graduations and things that was sad.
One of my daughters.
But I think 2021, that school year was probably a even bigger impact in my opinion, because they had to sit apart from each other and they had these dividers and everyone had to wear masks. And that was so different than any other time that they've ever been in school. And yeah.
Well, and it was all based on fear. Like they were afraid.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think our audience is going to want to know, because I want to know, how is your autistic daughter doing? How is she today?
She's doing great. So she's been in therapy for 6 years now. We just graduated from occupational therapy about 6 months ago, and now she's doing speech therapy, and she is high functioning. So she still goes to school like a normal kid, and she just learns a little bit differently. She just got into a charter school here in town, the newer one, Elevate. Okay. And so they do more of a hands-on approach. So she's really excited to be able to go and learn in a way that's best for her. And she really has made so much progress.
Yay.
So
congratulations, Mom, because
thank you.
I mean, I think we sometimes are either so wrapped up in our own life that we don't address things enough to a high enough intensity. So good job.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we're happy because we want littles to heal, just like we want people our age to heal and women in their 20s to heal and everything.
Yes.
Okay. How do people get a hold of you?
So the best way is through social media. I'm on Facebook and Instagram under Ciera Nicole Coaching.
I'll add a little note there. All I did was Google your name, and it was the very first thing that came up. So you're there.
Perfect.
And spell Ciera.
Ciera. And then Nicole is Nichole, because my mom had to make things difficult.
It's an Idaho thing I've learned.
But yeah, that's the best way. And I do one-on-one coaching. And then I also, every now and then, I'll do like a mini class where I've done one on self-love. I've done one on limiting beliefs. So I'll just announce those on my social media. But I just opened up last week. I just started a networking group for women called Nurture Network. And so it is for any woman who just wants to come and be a part of a group who is working towards healing. And you have that support of people there they're going through the hard stuff. They're trying to better themselves. And it's super cool. We meet once a week and we just go over different topics. And so
where do you meet?
On Zoom.
Okay.
Yep, it's over Zoom. And so it's super, super low cost. I was like, I want to be able to reach as many women as possible. I can only fit so many one-on-one clients in my schedule. So how do I do more? And so it's a group format, but it's $13 a month. And we meet at least 4 times a month. And the 3 times we'll go over just a different topic. Last week we did self-sabotage. This coming Monday, we're going to talk about our inner critic. And then following the 3rd week in May, we'll do, oh my gosh, it's on my website. I can't remember what it is now.
It's awesome.
Boundaries. I think we're going over boundaries. And then the last week I always do an open forum. So you can bring
like
your
Q&A
own, your own things that maybe you need help with, or, had this experience and you want to address it and don't quite know what to do. And so I just open it up for anybody to want to share who's feeling
I think this is super exciting. We've never heard anything like this because I do know people who can't budget it in right now.
But they could afford $13.
Yes.
And that's what I tried to make it as accessible as possible, because I know with inflation and just there's so many different things going on right now that make so many things hard financially on so many people. And I know, and that's probably the number one thing I hear when people come to me for help is like, oh man, I can't afford that.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I really want to help you. And so I'm trying to.
Right. And you don't want to discount all your years of schooling and all the work you've done. You have value to bring to the table. But to be able to share it, I mean, that's perfect.
Yeah.
So, we're going to share that a lot. Try to get your Zoom. Is there a max capacity that
there's
you can
not?
Have? Okay.
At least not right now. Maybe once, if we're having 100 people in it, then I might have to split it up into a few different sessions that people could choose from. But right now, where it's brand new, it's just that once a week, and I'll just tailor it as I go if I need to. But yeah, it was so powerful. Last Monday, the 5th was our first meeting, and it was incredible to sit and listen, and I record them. So if you happen to miss a week, or if you join at any time during May, you're going to have all of the meetings from May that you could go back and rewatch. And then there's a private Facebook community that you can get on, and we can further to the discussion, because there's always more to talk about.
All right. As we close out the podcast, will you just leave a bit of advice with our listeners? Obviously you have plenty to share. So just leave a bit of advice with those who are joining us today.
Sure. So the one thing, and this kind of goes right into why I created the group, but you are exactly like the 5 people you hang out with the most. So if the 5 people you hang out with the most are negative or not working on themselves or not being the best versions of themselves, you are also going to be just like that. And so surrounding yourself with people who are growing, learning, striving to be better, striving to do more is going to give you a whole lot more of a leg up than any other thing you could be doing. So
great. Okay,
yes.
Throw out your website one more time.
It is CieraNicoleCoaching.com. And then, Facebook and Instagram is where you can find me, and I'm pretty active on there. So
thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Much. Let's heal. Thanks for joining us today on the We Share podcast.
If you've loved what you've heard, please give us a 5-star rating. Tell your friends and share this show.
You can also follow us for recipes, lifestyle and fashion tips, book reviews, and more on WeSharePodcast.com.
Join our Share Squad and sign up for our newsletter there.
We would love to connect with you.
We share on TikTok, Pinterest, Facebook, and Instagram. Give us a follow.
A big goodbye squeeze and sending you all our love from Alex and Julie.
Join us next week on the We Share podcast.